57 or 75. My waist measurements, I think. Anyway, not to worry. Today's vlog is about work in the Philippines. So, mainly because when he was growing up, he didn't get an education, so he finds it very, very difficult to read, very, very difficult to write. Everything is verbal communication. So as he gets older and older, it's becoming more and more difficult for him to find work, because there are more and more youngsters that are doing building work, construction work, painting and decorating and stuff like that. And so I find it difficult. Plus, as he's getting older, it becomes more difficult to turn around and do the heavy manual work here in the Philippines. So you can be a manual. So when you are at school and you leave school, it's great to go out young, fit, healthy, and start working, earning a crust, getting the money, using the money to rent a house, buy clothes, get drunk. But that lifestyle runs out very quickly here, I find it, in the Philippines. When you get to 35, you're seen as a has-been. You're seen as unreliable. You're not seen as a conscientious employee. And what you need to do is, if you're in this quandary of doing work and cash, and work and cash, and work and cash, you need to get some stability when you get into your 30s, because by the time you get to your 30s, you've got maybe a girlfriend, maybe you've got a rental apartment, or maybe you've got a child that you need to, or 2 children, or 3 children, and it becomes this never-ending cycle and grind. And for Archie, the guy I know, it is a grind. It is a real grind, and you can't help but feel sorry, but you can't help. You can't help, because he has to find his job. He has to find his way in life, because he is part of a group of people that are unemployable, and you don't get benefits here. You can go down and you can get tribal benefit, a few pesos here, a few pesos there. You will end up losing your girlfriend, she'll turn around, because you're not bringing money in. And females, Filipino females, are very, very hard. They want income, they want support, they want that respect of having that money coming into the house. That what she does and you do is similar. There is no disparity between she brings all the money in and you bring nothing. There has to be this push by people to get, or middle-aged men to get to work. And you also need to make sure that with work comes responsibility to pay into your pension and your medical, because as you get older, things drop off, as I said before. Anyway, that's Annie's brother. Now, the second person I know, he's 38, really hard worker, very, very skilled. However, he phoned up today to ask Annie for some help to get his SSS updated, his birth certificate updated, to get his what do they call it, Pacific updated. He started work He's 38. He started to work about 20 to 25 years ago. But he's been doing cash in hand jobs, get paid, use it, do it. Exactly like Archie. But now this guy, okay, needs to have all the paperwork updated from when he first started work, because now in the Philippines you have to go down to a local government office and get all your documentation updated if you apply for a job. Now he's going to apply for a job because he needs to get out of the rut of driving a pedicab, 10 peso here, 20 peso there, maybe get 10 to 15 rides a day and you get 200 peso. You can't live on 200 peso healthily here. Now, his wife has left him and she's moved away, taking their daughter, so he is on his own again. So it's really, really, really hard to see this guy. I mean, I like him, I'm not going to name him, but I like him a lot. He's very, very stubborn. He's very, very proud, and I mean really proud. He's tribal, and he has to do everything on his own. And he made a phone call this morning with Annie. He had a chat with Annie, and Annie's going to go down to the local office here to update his paperwork because he's got his TIN number needs to be updated and put electronically. He's got an old piece of paper, so it needs to go plastic, same as Annie. And then he needs to get his SSS payments up to date, and he needs to turn around and get his Pacific, and he needs to get his health card, and he needs to get his updated birth certificate. So he needs all of those 5 bits of paperwork because he wants to apply for a full-time job working for a company that's going to be doing some expansion work down between Melita and Digos. So now he rides a pedicab, but he doesn't make a lot out of it. He does renovation work in houses, and he builds wooden houses and little squatter town houses, puts the electrics in, does the water, does the concrete work, does the windows, very, very good. However, in the last 2 years, since the government have been in, those jobs have got less and less and less because inflation has gone up and up and up, and the people that were saving to get those jobs done are saving but not spending. So they're not spending. And if they're not spending, then this guy is out of pocket. He's out of work. And very, as I said, very, very difficult. Healthy drink today. Now, I could give advice, but the advice I would give is not sustainable here in the Philippines. If I was out of work back in the UK before 2018, I could go to an agency, or I could go online, or I could go on LinkedIn, or I could go on it, monster.com, and I could post my TV and get 20 to 30 interviews within a month. In my time, in my working life, from the age of 15 when I went out to work until I stopped work at 58, I was never out of work. I always had a job. I always had money coming in, and I've used that money. You can't do that here. You can't do that in the Philippines. There is, you have to do everything word of mouth. There are agencies where you can go and find work, but those will be like Agency 360, where they will put you into a call centre, or they'll turn around and put you OFW, or they'll put you online, or they'll put you... But what you have to have is you have to have the updated paperwork, the transcript of records when you were at school. They need the tax documentation. They need the Pacific. They need the SSS. They need a statement. There's so much that you have to do to turn around and register with one of these agencies. It becomes a nightmare. Now, a lot of people who turn around and end up saving up a little bit of money here and there and do taxi driving. But you still need to get your PUV, public utility vehicle license. Now, I talked to some taxi drivers and they got it free through Tester, or they got it free through a online work thing. But when I've made contact with LTO, it's about £4,500 pesos. So work here does become difficult to get. You know, it's like with Annie, for the females, if you're going to go and work as a cashier, you need to have 4 years worth of college. Well, how do you pay for 4 years of college when it's 20,000 every semester? So you need 40,000 peso a year. Well, my friend only pays 3,000 peso a year for the rent in his house. His electricity is about 500 peso a year. Doesn't have a TV license, doesn't do internet because he just turns around and borrows other people's internet, pays for it when he wants it. So work here becomes difficult. Now the other side of the work here is that you will find people that you think are helping you with work and qualifications, and then they turn. What I found is that they'll get you through the front door, or they'll get you close to an interview, and then all of a sudden you'll find that they're employed, but you're not, or they're doing the work and you're not, or they. How can I turn around and say it? They undercut your value to better themselves, and I've seen that a couple of times where people have turned around and put work costing for a work on a property with the friend. There's two of them going to do the work. This guy then turns around and puts it in, starts talking, and the second party goes to the company and turns around and says, I can do that for less, and undercuts your proposal. But they don't tell you you're doing that. So you've put in, say, 3,000 peso for the work. Your friend comes along and says, I'll do it for 2,500. So where's the work going? People want to save the money, so they'll give it to 2,005. Then your friend will talk to you about employing you, but not at 500 peso a day, at 300 peso a day, because he's already taken off 500 peso on the contract. So I've seen that 4 or 5 times. I don't agree with it and I don't like it, but that's the cutthroat business, because that friend you work with, so-called, has got a wife at home that's naggy, because she wants to get all the money and she don't want you to have any. So you'll get 200 peso a day, they'll get the 2,500, so they get 2,200, 2,300 a day, and you get 200 peso. But at least you're getting 200, and you have to suck it and see. But it's not easy now. Now you can go to companies direct, knock on the door, walk in the front door, and say that you're looking for work. But you've still got to have all of the updated paperwork, the school information, TOR. They want to know that you've done 4 years worth of college, or you've done the work, where you work, what you're done, what you're good at. Otherwise, you just end up as a labourer. You just become the bottom of the bottom. You're at the bottom now. You become a farm labourer. You work on the land. You work on the ground. You work on the building site. Yeah. And you've gained the experience of doing heating and electricity and painting and stud walling and windows and flooring and drains and toilets. But you've only done it to the Philippine standard. You haven't done it to a Western standard. So if you're going to a subdivision and somebody's building a Western style house, you need to understand about ring mains and need to understand about the electricity that people like. You want, because having a light and a TV is one thing, but having a light, a TV, air conditioning, waste disposal unit, macerator, computers, it becomes quite difficult. And one brother and a friend I know, they're struggling. They have been struggling, one for 6 months, the other one for 3. And now he's saying he wants to apply and he wants to turn around and find continual work. He wants to go out on a Monday and come back on a Friday, or go out on a Wednesday and come back on a Sunday, and he wants to be getting a salary. He wants to be getting, not sit at home chasing work, because if he's chasing work, he's not making any money. Come on, Mum. So, anyway, I've got my breakfast, and I'm going to enjoy my breakfast. Be back in a minute. Wow, look at that. There's my breakfast. The beans, my tomato, my toasted soda bread, my fried egg, my ham and my bacon, ooh, my coffee, soda water, and my healthy carrot drink. Oh, you've got to turn around and say that I'm 57. Oh, I needed that breakfast. So, work. Now, the other thing I've seen with work, trying to find work, and the impact of not finding work is face, losing face where you live. So I have a friend that lives in the provinces, and he knows him, and when his wife left him, she was the money cow in the relationship, because she had a good stable job and she's been in it for 25 years. But then the job stopped after 25 years. There's no redundancy and there's none of that garbage you get back in the West. So everything fell on his shoulders, which meant he was working longer hours, he was doing more, and because he needed to get the money to come in, because the wife's monthly salary, 15th and the 30th of the month, wasn't there. But what came back to me from when I took them out for lunch one day was that the locals, where they live, in their little barangay area, started chica, chismes, saying that, no, you're not rich anymore. Tell them up, Mum. You're not rich anymore. You're not earning money anymore. You've lost your job. And they started looking down on them because she had a good job. He had an average job. And the locals saw that he was working harder and she was at home all the time. So the stable environment was getting rocked by the people where they were living. And it's not just the work part of it that is hard. It's about keeping up with the Joneses, and I call it keeping up with the Joneses because as long as you've got work and as long as you can pay your way and do everything, then great. As long as the person across the road can pay their way and get by, great. But I think there is this community fear. It's only my thought. There's a community fear that if you're out of work, you might be going knocking on other people's doors asking for help. People like to help. You know, financially, if they can help, they will. I've found in my majority of my dealings here. But what I've also found is people tend to keep out of your way. So there is no one-to-one contact. You go to work at 7 o'clock in the morning or you're at home all day, people will look out of their windows and see what your routine is, and then when they know you're doing washing or you're doing the cleaning of the house, they'll just turn around and get ready and they'll be gone out of the house. And you don't know they're there. You don't know they're out. And then when they come back in the evening. But it does, saving face or losing face is key here in the Philippines. It is a real hardship if you can't find work and people have work. And this friend, I said, his wife is getting all sorts of grief at the moment. And I don't think I'm not living there, so I don't know whether it's justifiable that maybe she was like, you know, a rich woman who was turned around being flat. She doesn't come across to me as being flat. She comes across to me being humble. But she came to 50 and they found somebody younger in the company to take her job. Whether right or wrong, or whether the young person was going out with somebody that owned the company or the family of the company, I don't know. I just know that after 23 and a half years, this woman was working for the same company. Here in Davao, downtown. Gone. Maybe she couldn't do the work she was supposed to be doing, I don't know. Maybe she wasn't just a cashier. You know, maybe she was a stock controller or analysis or doing stuff like that. I don't really know all about it. I just know that she's a sad lady at the moment. Coming to terms with, and it's not been very long, it's only been about 7 months. But they're looking to sell their house and move because they can't afford to run the house they got because she's not finding work. She's another one of those people like me, get to a certain age and the rules change and your qualifications change and your paperwork changes and you've got to change all of that and update it all. And life just seems to move on by. You've been doing it for so long and all of a sudden it's not right. I found that when I was back in the UK. I found people would, in the work I was doing, they would turn around and go to my boss and turn around and say, oh, I don't like the way Gary talks to me, or I don't like what's happening here, or I don't like what's happening here, or I don't like this, or I don't like that. And they call it PC, you know, politically correct. Well, every politician I see around the world is corrupt. It's a narcissist and a horrible piece of work. How can it be politically correct? I'm not that. I'm not a narcissist. But I was paid to do a job, and that's what I had to do. Now, people can turn around and say, oh, there's ways of doing things, there's ways of doing that. Yeah, there are. There are. And I totally agree with that. But when you're working in an environment where 450 people come into an event that aren't trained, that don't have the knowledge, that are just there to earn the money and go. They don't care about the proposition. They're not proud of the company they're coming to work for. It all becomes difficult to manage somebody that is not interested. And it's very difficult that you're passionate about your product and what you've developed and what you've nurtured as your child to grow the business, and then people come through the front door and they're really not interested. And when you turn around and try to explain to people this is what you want them to do because you're the boss, they turn around and say, oh, no, we're going to complain, we don't like your attitude, we don't like that. So I just used to turn around and say, I used to review all the paperwork and turn around and say, no, I know that person, don't want them. And I used to score them 1 to 5. 1 being very, very good, 5 being really, very poor. Re-employ was 1 and 2. Not employ was 3, 4 and 5. And the agencies would come back and go, well, you've marked this person 3, yeah? They don't want to listen, they just do want to do it their way. They don't want to turn around, or they're not at work, they're skiving off. They're not where they're supposed to be. I don't care, they've only got to come in and work for 3 hours and then they can go. But in that 3 hours, they're getting paid a lot of money, but they weren't achieving. And you're not allowed to make those judgments anymore. So I was saying to Annie, I can see that happening here in the Philippines. Yeah. You either turn the other cheek, or you move people on. Now there is something here regarding employment which I haven't got my teeth around yet, and I haven't got my mind around, is that when you employ somebody for over 6 months, they become virtually a full-time employee. And what a lot of companies do here is when they come close to the 6 months, they release them from that contract. Because as soon as they go over 6 months, they've got to start paying them SSS or contributing towards their pension. And that's legal. And people have to accept it. So it's crazy. But anyway, so I know 3 people. One of them is going to struggle for the next 20 years to find work. Okay. 20 years, that's it. Can't read, can't write, no education, no paperwork. Virtually impossible for him to turn around and get any sort of remuneration package from anybody. The other guy, he's got to deal with that. He's giving up that builders, pedicab, having 8 or 9 different working jobs just to find one job, and he's got the possibility to do that. And then the other one is the woman who worked for 25 years here and has been released from the contract after 25 years. No severance, no package, no nothing. And I don't know what it was for. It's not for fraud or grifting or grafting, whatever you want to call it. I think, personally, she grew up with the family, and now the family have passed the business to the children, and the children don't see her as a matriarch, an Ati, as being in the family. They want new faces in the business. I think that's where it's come from. So her face doesn't fit, and she's out. Now she's having that same problem that my number 2 friend is having. Update the paperwork, get the stuff sorted out, and then go out on the market. But it is really hard at 50 to go out on the market and find a job. Maybe that's why there are so many sorry stores. But maybe she'll go from 26,000 peso a month job down to 3,000 or 4,000 pesos a month selling stuff. I don't know. It's too old to go and do OFW. Never done it before. Sad really, but finding work is difficult. Now the last part of this vlog is about the people that I see all the time saying that you can come here, get a tourist visa, go down and you can start working in the Philippines. No, you can't. So if you've got a tourist visa and you're a foreigner thinking that you can come here and work and do building work, the daily rate is 500 peso a day, yeah, which is about $6 a day, and you turn around and not allowed to under tourist visa. You can work if you get a long-term resident visa. You're allowed to do that. But I've seen a couple of vlogs by numb-nut vloggers that turn around and say, come here, look at that, you can live like a king. Well, no you can't. You can't live like a king. You can live well off, but as soon as they find you're working, you're going to get blacklisted, you get deported, and you'll be living back in the country you come from with no money, no job, and wishing you hadn't opened your mouth on YouTube. Anyway, like, share and subscribe guys. Take care. Look after yourself.